So when it comes to these documents for bona fides, for I-130, I-751, maybe citizenship, maybe remarriage, what kind of stuff are you thinking about, Anya?
What I'm thinking about, the main thing is that all this paperwork that USCIS wants you to submit to show that your relationship is real, it's in my personal opinion, it's outstanding. It's outdated. I'm sorry, it's outdated standard. You know,
Yeah.
nowadays people might not even live together, and they will still have will be in valid marriage, and they're real.
Mhm.
They might not live together. They might not have joint account together, right? For any reasons, right? They might not file taxes under married filing jointly, right? They might still
Mhm.
file married like separately, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a scenario where people have student loans, so they don't want to merge their taxes because it's going to cause higher student loans. Or they might be living together on a lease, but if they add the spouse's name, their lease or their rent is going to go up, and they don't want that to happen. So there's a lot of reasons. So this, as you said, it's outdated, and it really goes towards, it helps people who are wealthier and have property together. Some people don't have health insurance to show joint health insurance is really important. Some people keep their bank accounts separate because one spouse is not good at keeping money. They spend a lot. I've had clients where they had joint bank accounts and they separated it because one spouse was overspending and they didn't trust them with the money. Not because of the relationship, it's because the partner was not responsible or reliable. So we want all these documents as much as possible, joint bank accounts that are used, rent, lease agreements, all this kind of stuff. But we do appreciate that it is outdated. And there was a case one of our colleagues talked about in court where a judge talked about this, how it is outdated.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Uh, yes, and but it's still here, right? And we have to
Mhm.
play by the rules. So you might think of something that even doesn't come to your head first. Like for example, a very good thing that we recently started to use is if you have Amazon account, even if it's not joint accounts, right? But you didn't add your spouse there, but your spouse, for example, still orders using your account, right?
Yeah.
And you can go to amazon.com or just google like Amazon spreadsheet history, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And Amazon will tell you how to do it. You can retrieve the whole thing. It's like a big Excel file showing what did you order, your name, your spouse name, again if you were both using the same account, right?
Yeah.
Your addresses, everything, where it goes. And it's beautiful thing. It's something that you can use, right? For example, if you don't have a lot of other bona fides.
Yeah. There's even things that, like Netflix accounts where you have, your own names and directories. So there's a typical stuff of joint property when it comes to rental or home ownership. Bank accounts, credit cards, joint finances in that route, health insurance, car insurance, life insurance, putting each other as beneficiaries of different death accounts, and or having some. There's these. I forgot what the term it is, but these things you can write up or have signed that says if I'm in a coma, for example, my spouse can make decisions about my life, all this kind of stuff. But then this next level of these Amazon accounts, Netflix accounts, cards you've written each other, emails, potentially love letters, kind of stuff you email. All this could be printed out, and obviously photos with family and friends and together over the years, maybe even caption photos. But all these can be used for bona fides to prove relationship. The more you have, the better. I always try to overdo it because we can't send someone out there without as much evidence as possible. It's better to have more than less. Even though sometimes lawyers say it's not good to send so much because it creates the expectation for the USCIS adjudicator that they're always going to get this much, and some couples don't have as much. And I appreciate that. That may be a worry. That's true. But at the same time, each person, each client we have, we're just dedicated to that one client. We can't sacrifice them for a long-term trend or something like that. So the more, the better is just so important. These kind of things.
Right. Both, I just want to mention that both under submission and over submission, both are like fraud indicators for USCIS. Both.
Yeah.
If you submit too little or if you submit too much, it's both look suspicious to them,
Yeah,
even though
that's
they might
my
not
problem.
necessarily be the case.
Yeah, there was something, I can't remember what it was, but in the adjudicator's field manual, which was the old training system for USCIS officers, there was one thing where they say in the instructions that you have to do, but in their training they said if someone does this, it's this indicator of fraud, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but there's this it just really makes it really complicated and subjective and unreliable when they have this kind of stuff too much or too little. There's standards that we always put, and so there's a limit. Sometimes we'll, if it's too much, we'll keep some back and say, listen, if we get an RFE, or when you go to the in-person interview, bring this in as additional documents. So, for example, declarations and letters from family and friends that are aware of your relationship. If the couple doesn't have that much documentation, we'll definitely submit those. But if we have a lot, I just say, listen, let's hold this back in case they want more evidence, or just bring this to the interview with you, because it is too much. And so we don't need to send this much for declarations, but we do pull back and throttle it somewhat if it's just way too much.
Right. And in regards to pictures, um, I see some people on Facebook who submit the paperwork by themselves. They say, or someone told me I need to submit like 300 pictures, right?
Yeah.
From like every month at least from through the whole relationship. This is not necessarily the case,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
20, probably 20, 30 pictures maximum would be enough, especially during like very important events like your wedding or like family celebrations or travel
Yeah.
together. But again, it depends. It may be more, but not less than that. At
Yeah,
least.
and don't send photo albums. I've had people do it on their own in case they're returned, like because they have photo albums, stuff like that. And what we do is we just print it on our printer. Like people digitally send us the photos, we print it. Sometimes I do 4 to a page, depending on how many photos they have, and just so that when the officers get it, because they have to put it in a big folder, something that's easy for them to flip through. If it's individual photos in a plastic packet, that doesn't fit well within a folder that's in a drawer somewhere. So whatever it is to make it easier, print in color, vivid color, so they can see the humanity of the people involved. But have a mix. And sometimes people send stuff they're wearing the same outfit. Maybe it's because they take the photo on the same day, or sometimes they wear the same thing. But you got to be conscious if you're sending photos where you're wearing the same thing. It looks like you just took photos in one day just for that. So obviously, most people take a lot of photos out of these phones. I've had clients where they just don't take photos, not into it. Where I'm like, listen, just if you do go on trips, if you're at family events, just take a photo, show your family, just so it's there. But just some people aren't. So if you don't have photos, you have to make up for it. Now, I've seen cases where people get approved with barely any evidence, and I've seen cases where they hassle us when we have tons of evidence. So again, it's not reliable, but you want to have good documentation nonetheless. More having documentation in hand is better than not having it. So really thinking this through is really important for the process.
Yes, and one last thing about the pictures. Make sure you indicate on the pictures or on this sheet that you're gonna print the pictures who is depicted on the picture, right? The date and the place where the picture was taken. So the USCIS officer make it easier for them to
Yeah.
understand who is who and what's going on. Yeah.
It is best practices. Sometimes we don't do it because it requires a lot more work from the clients to go one by one. And one of our things, concierge services, we don't want to hassle clients. So if we have a lot of stuff, like we have a like property ownership, and they've gone on 50 trips together on airplanes. So that's another thing, joint travel records. We won't ask the client to caption it because it just might, they might be busy or something like that. But especially if you don't have as much, you got to get as much detail as possible with these captions, and specify it is best practices.
Right. And sometimes what we see, USCIS might even say, okay, pictures, they don't prove anything. They don't prove that you're in a real relationship. It just proves that you were with this person at this time, at this date, at this place. So pictures by itself is just part of the submission. It's good to have them,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I'm
but
glad you said that because I have people contact me and say, "Well, we have pictures," and they think that's it. And pictures may be like 15% value. It's really not that much valuable because people can make up, especially with digital stuff right now. There are people who do marriage fraud and they just put these fake pictures up with fake backgrounds and stuff. They get caught about that all the time. So I get it constantly. People say, "We have a bunch of pictures together. We have 100 pictures." I'm like, well, I only need 20, and that's only like 10% of the bona fides. That's like I have it really there psychologically. So when the people are reviewing the file, they see the actual people because there's so much paperwork with just names and alien numbers and addresses. I wanted them to see it's a real person, but that's the value I get from pictures primarily is to show like there's real people behind this. But documentation, bona fides, joint documents, there's a lot more value in other kinds of documents that are more practical than just photos because people could be buddies and friends and they just take a lot of photos together and they enter into scam marriage to kind of help their friend out. So you really need to prove this goes beyond just taking photos, and it is really a partial thing that's needed. We definitely want to have photos, but it's not a primary thing at all.